Nicola Sturgeon's authoritarian power grab continues to get worse as she plans to make the lockdown powers in Scotland permanent.
That the data I cited was indeed accurate. The data I cited was indeed accurate.
Well, this is an absolute mess right now. So we have a lot of problems in this country. Across the Union, Downing Street, they're still busy discussing cake eating and wallpapers. And we have in Wales, Mark Drakeford going around dancing and being a hypocrite. Scotland, we need to talk about Scotland more. And I know that the mainstream media are not really interested in Scotland as much unless something big happens that actually applies to England. So they're like, oh, let's discuss Nicola Sturgeon. There are issues that matters to Scotland, which matters to the United Kingdom, but doesn't actually have to always apply to England. And the media need to talk about this. So this woman is going completely crazy now with power grab. We know that when governments and also devolved authorities like the Scottish government and the Scottish Parliament, when they introduced these emergency powers bills and lockdown powers, they said initially that, well, this is going to be temporary. Luckily, in the House of Commons, we had MPs who forced the government to have this clause to make sure that we renew them every few months. And at least in terms of principle, that was a good idea. Even the Parliament was, overwhelmingly, the majority were in favour of these powers anyway. But at least for the sake of the Constitution, that was a good idea. Now, the SNP government in Scotland, we know that they are basically the tiny version of what Jacinda Ardern's trying to do in New Zealand, or Justin Trudeau in Canada, and also Australia as well, because Sturgeon wants to be seen as this strong leader, and she wants to be the replacement of the UK's Prime Minister as a role. So she's going to be asking the authorities to actually give extra powers to the Scottish government so that they could keep the lockdown emergency powers permanently forever. So that the government in Scotland could have the power whenever they want to introduce whatever measure that they wish. It's so bad that the Scottish government's, the SNP deputy leader, John Swinney, has come out to say, well, it's all because of compassion. Our priorities are to continue to lead Scotland safely through and out of this. I think that what they try to say when it comes to this whole public health debate is they think they can eliminate it. You can't eliminate it. I can assure you, it's been tried. You cannot eliminate it. It's an airborne virus. That's one. Then he said, we also want to address inequalities made worse by this. You did it. You destroyed people's lives. And now you say, well, it was someone else's fault, so we're going to try and talk about it. Are you even going to criticize China for their complacency and cover-ups? No, didn't think so. So that's what John Swinney is saying. But it's so bad that even the Scottish Labour Party, the other crazies, are opposing this idea. Jackie Baillie from the Scottish Labour Party has come out to say that this is a shameless power grab from the SNP. These emergency powers were a necessary response to an unprecedented crisis, not a free pass for ministers to hoard new powers. Well, yeah, and she's right that she says this bill would give ministers permanent powers to shut down schools and confine people to their homes at the drop of a hat. The problem is that she doesn't actually believe that, because the Scottish Labour Party, or generally speaking the Labour Party in general, if they were in power, they would do similar stuff. They're all authoritarian, but it's good party political messaging for them to be like, well, we're not like the SNP. The reason that it's going crazy is because Nicola Sturgeon is authoritarian. No. It's the same with Starmer. He criticises Boris Johnson in London, but in fact, if Starmer were Prime Minister, he would do the exact same thing, or probably worse. So they're all talking nonsense. But this issue of power grab, it is a big problem. And of course, there's massive opposition against it, and there will be a lot of debate. But we need to talk about it, because this can't become a cultural trend in the political system, whereby we don't want politicians to even feel like they have the flexibility or the power to even discuss these sort of things. Politicians need to be afraid of us. They need to be afraid of the electorate and the taxpayers. We can't give them so much freedom so that they could wake up one day and say, guys, should we try this? Should we test the waters? Like, this emergency power is literally called emergency powers. Like, if you're going to treat it as a permanent cultural trend, that, well, this is just part of the executive flexibility that, you know, we want to be able to help you in the name of helping society for the greater good. We are going to be introducing this, we're going to be introducing that. Look what the Chinese Communist Party are doing in Beijing. They are doing everything in the name of, you know, for the sake of the greater good. They introduced a credit system, a social credit system, because of, you know, for the greater good. They introduced all these measures, the ID system, the digital ID system, centralizing every single aspect and industry in China for the greater good. Do not allow politicians in the West, in the so-called democratic West, to get away with it, to even test the waters to be like Putin or Beijing. Do not allow them to turn the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland into another Iran. We don't want this. We have to call it out and we have to oppose it. Thanks again, guys, for watching. Don't forget, we're going to have more updates for you guys, and I'm going to have some surprise very, very soon. Subscribe to the channel and click on this bell next to it. That's the best way to get notified when I release my new videos. I'm Tousi and we are the media.